VLNCE Carballo's men were spread all over town, checking every hotel, boarding house, and flop house. One of his men showed pictures of Diane and Kelly to the clerk at the Esplanade Hotel. "Have you seen either of these ladies? There's a $5 million reward for them." The clerk shook his head. "I wish I knew where they were." At the Renaissance Westchester Hotel, another man was holding up pictures of Diane and Kelly. $5 million? I wish I could collect that. At the Crown Plaza, the clerk was saying, "If I see them, I'll sure let you know, mister." Vince Carballo himself knocked at the door of Grace Seidel's boarding house. "Good morning." "Good morning. My name is Vince Carballo." He held up a picture of the two women. "Have you seen these women? There's a $5 million reward for them." Grace Seidel's face lit up. "Kelly. *****. In Tanner's office, Kathy Ordonez was overwhelmed. Faxes were coming in faster than she could handle them, and her email inbox was inundated. She picked up a pile of the papers and walked into Tanner's office. Tanner and Pauline Van Leuven were seated on a couch, talking. Tanner looked up as his secretary came in. "What is it?" She smiled. "Good news. You're going to have a very successful dinner party." He frowned. "What are you talking about?" She held up the papers. "These are all acceptances. Everyone's coming." Tanner got up. "Coming where? Let me see those." Kathy handed him the papers and went out to her desk. Tanner read the first email aloud. "We would be delighted to come to dinner at KIG headquarters on Friday to see the unveiling of Prima, your weather control machine." From the editor of Time magazine. His face turned white. He looked at the next one. "Thank you for your invitation to see Prima, your weather control computer, at KIG headquarters. We look forward to being there." It's signed by the editor of Newsweek. He schemed the rest of them. CBS, NBC, CNN, The Wall Street Journal, The Chicago Tribune, and The London Times, all eager to see the unveiling of Prima. Pauline sat there, speechless. Tanner was so furious, he could hardly speak. "What the hell is going on?" He stopped. "Those bitches." At Irma's internet cafe, Diane was busily operating a computer. She looked up at Kelly. "Have we left anyone out?" Kelly said, "Elle, Cosmopolitan, Vanity Fair, Mademoiselle, Reader's Digest." Diane laughed. "I think this does it. I hope Kingsley has a good caterer. He's going to have a big party." *****. Vince Carballo was looking at Grace Seidel excitedly. "You know Kelly?" "Oh, yes, Grace said. She's one of the most famous models in the world. Vince Carballo's face lit up. Where is she? Grace looked at him in surprise. I don't know. I've never met her. His face reddened. You said you knew her. I mean, everybody knows her. She's very famous. Isn't she beautiful? You have no idea where she is. Grace said thoughtfully, I do have kind of an idea. Where? I saw a woman who looked like her get on a bus this morning. She was traveling with someone. What bus was it? It was the bus to Vermont. Thanks. Vince Carballo hurried away. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Tanner threw the pile of faxes and emails to the floor and turned to Pauline. Do you know what those bitches have done? We can't let anyone see Prima. He was thoughtful for a long moment. I think Prima will have an accident the day before the party and blow up. Pauline looked at him a moment and then smiled. Prima too? Tanner nodded. That's right. We can travel around the world, and anytime we're ready, we'll go to Tomoa and start operating Prima too. Kathy Ordonez's voice came over the intercom. She sounded frantic. She buzzed into Tanner's office. Mr. Kingsley, the phones are going crazy. I have the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Larry King, all holding for you. Tell them I'm in a meeting. Tanner turned to Pauline. We have to get out of here. He patted Andrew on the shoulder. Andrew, come with us. Yes, Tanner. The three of them walked over to the red brick building. I have something very important for you to do, Andrew. Anything you want, Andrew said. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Tanner led the way into the red brick building and walked over to Prima. Tanner turned to Andrew. Here's what I want you to do. Princess and I have to leave now, but at 6 o'clock, I want you to turn this computer off. It's very simple. He pointed. You see this big red button? Andrew nodded. I see it. All you have to do is press it 3 times, at 6 o'clock. 3 times. Can you remember that? Andrew said, Yes, Tanner. 6 o'clock. 3 times. Right. See you later. Tanner and Pauline started to walk out. Andrew looked after them. You're not taking me with you. No. You stay here. Just remember, 6 o'clock, 3 times. I'll remember. As they walked outside, Pauline said, What if he doesn't remember? Tanner laughed. It doesn't matter. It's set to explode automatically at 6 o'clock. I just wanted to make sure he's there when it happens. Chapter 45. It was a perfect day for flying. KIG 757 was speeding over the Pacific Ocean under an azure blue sky. Pauline and Tanner were snuggled together on a couch in the main cabin. Pauline said, "Darling, do you know it's a shame that people will never know how brilliant you are? If they ever found out, I'd be in big trouble." She looked at him and said, "No problem. We could buy a country and proclaim ourselves the rulers. Then they can't touch us." Tanner laughed. Pauline stroked his hand. "Did you know that I wanted you from the first time I saw you?" "No. As I remember, you were very impertinent. And it worked, didn't it? You had to see me again, to teach me a lesson." There was a long, erotic kiss. Far away, lightning flashed. Tanner said, "You'll love Tomoa. We'll spend a week or two there and relax, and then we'll travel around the world. We're going to make up for all the lost years when we couldn't be together." She looked up and grinned impishly. "You bet we will. And every month or so, we'll come back to Tomoa and put Prima 2 to work. You and I can pick our targets together." Pauline said, "Well, we could create a storm in England, but they wouldn't notice." Tanner laughed. "We have the whole world to choose from." A steward approached. "Is there anything I can get you?" he asked. Tanner said, "No. We have everything." And he knew that it was true. In the distant sky, there were more flashes of lightning. "I hope there isn't going to be a storm," Pauline said. I hate flying in rough weather." Tanner said reassuringly, "Don't worry, darling. There's not a cloud in the sky." He thought of something and smiled. "We don't have to worry about the weather. We control it." He looked at his watch. Prima's about to blow up. Sudden drops of rain began to pound against the plane. Tanner held Pauline closer. "It's all right. It's just a bit of rain." And as Tanner said it, the sky suddenly began to darken and tremble with loud peals of thunder. The huge plane started to bounce up and down. Tanner was looking out the window, puzzled by what was happening. The rain began to turn into large hailstones. Tanner said, "Look at the realization suddenly hit him. Prima." It was a cry of exultation, a look of glory in his eyes. We can at that instant, a hurricane hit the plane, bouncing it around savagely. Pauline was screaming. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In the red brick building at KIG, Andrew Kingsley was operating Prima, his fingers flashing over the keys in remembrance. Watching his target on the screen, he could see an image of his brother's plane being buffeted by 300-mile-an-hour hurricane winds. He pressed another button. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. At a dozen branch offices of the National Weather Service, From Anchorage, Alaska, to Miami, Florida, meteorologists were staring at their computer screens in disbelief. What was happening seemed impossible, but it was happening. Working in the red brick building, Andrew was grateful that there was still one thing he could do to help make the world a better place. He carefully guided an F6 tornado he had created up higher and higher. Tanner was looking out the window of the wildly tossing plane when he heard the telltale freight train sound of the approaching tornado over the roar of the storm, traveling 320 miles an hour. Tanner's face was flushed, and he was trembling with excitement, watching the tornado spinning up toward the plane. He was ecstatic. Look! There's never been a tornado this high. Never. I created it. It's a miracle. Only God and I could *****. In the red brick building, Andrew moved the switch and watched the screen as the plane exploded and pieces of wreckage and bodies were hurled into the sky. Then Andrew Kingsley pressed the red button 3 times. Chapter 46. Kelly and Diane were finishing getting dressed when Grace Seidel knocked at their door. "Breakfast is ready whenever you are." "Coming," Kelly called out. Diane said, "I hope our little stunt worked. Let's see if Grace has a morning newspaper." They stepped out of their room. To the right was the recreation area. A few people were gathered around the television set. As Kelly and Diane started to pass it, to go to the dining room, a television anchorman was saying. And according to reports, there were no survivors. Tanner Kingsley and former Senator Pauline Van Leuven were on the plane, along with a pilot, co-pilot, and a steward. The 2 women froze. They looked at each other, turned, and walked up to the television set. On the screen were pictures of the exterior of KIG. Kingsley International Group constitutes the largest think tank in the world, with offices in 30 countries. The Weather Bureau has reported an unexpected electrical storm in the South Pacific area where Tanner Kingsley's private plane was flying. Pauline Van Leuven was the former head of the Senate Select Committee on the Environment. Diane and Kelly were listening, fascinated, and in another piece of the puzzle, there's a mystery here that the police are trying to solve. The press was invited to a dinner party, to visit Prima, a new weather control computer that KIG developed, but yesterday there was an explosion at KIG and Prima was completely destroyed. The fire department found the body of Andrew Kingsley in the wreckage and believe he was the only victim. Diane said, "Tanner Kingsley is dead." "Say that again." Slowly. "Tanner Kingsley is dead." Kelly breathed a deep sigh of relief. She looked at Diane and smiled. "Life is sure going to be dull after this." "I hope so," Diane replied. "How would you like to sleep at the Waldorf Astoria Towers tonight?" Kelly grinned. "I wouldn't mind." When they said their goodbyes to Grace Seidel, she hugged Kelly and said, "Anytime." She never mentioned the money that she had been offered. *****. In the presidential suite in the Waldorf Towers, a waiter was setting a table for dinner. He turned to Diane. "Did you say you wanted it set for 4? "That's right." Kelly looked at her and said nothing. Diane knew what she was thinking. As they were sitting down at the table, Diane said, "Kelly, I don't think we did this alone. I think we had a little help." She raised her glass of champagne and said to the empty chair next to her, "Thank you, Richard, darling. I love you." As she lifted the glass to her lips, Kelly said, "Wait a minute." Diane turned to her. Kelly picked up her glass of champagne and looked at the empty chair next to her. "Mark, I love you so much." "Thank you." They drank their toasts. Kelly smiled and said, "That felt good." "Well, what's next?" "I'm going to the FBI in Washington and tell them what I know." Kelly corrected her. "We're going to Washington and tell them what we know." Diane nodded. "Right." She said thoughtfully, "I think we did a good job. Our husbands would be proud of us." "Yeah," Kelly said. "We've solved this. And look at the odds against us. You know what we should do now?" "What?" "Start our own detective agency." Diane laughed. "You're kidding." Kelly gave her a long, slow smile. "Am I?" After dinner, they watched television, and every channel was carrying the story of Tanner Kingsley's death. As Kelly watched, she said thoughtfully, "You know, when you cut off a snake's head, the rest of the snake dies. What does that mean? Let's find out." Kelly walked over to the telephone. "I want to place a call to Paris." 5 minutes later, she heard the voice of Nicole Paradis. "Kelly. Kelly. Kelly. I'm so glad you called." Kelly's heart sank. She knew what she was going to hear next. They had killed Angel. "I didn't know how to reach you. You've heard the news." "The whole world has heard the news." Jerome Mallow and Alphonse Girard packed their things and left in a hurry. "And Philippe and his family? They are returning tomorrow." "That's wonderful." Kelly was afraid to ask the next question. "And Angel?" "I have Angel in my apartment. They were planning to use her as bait in case you wouldn't cooperate." Kelly felt a sudden glow. "Oh, that's wonderful. What would you like me to do with her?" "Put her on the next Air France flight to New York. Let me know when she'll arrive and I'll pick her up at the airport. You can call me here at the Waldorf Towers. I'll take care of it." "Thank you." Kelly replaced the receiver. Diane had been listening. "Angel is all right?" "Yes." "Oh, that's great. Isn't it?" "I'm thrilled. By the way, what are you going to do with your half of the money?" Diane looked at her. "What?" "KIG put up a $5 million reward. I think it's coming to us." "But Kingsley's dead." "I know, but KIG isn't." They laughed. Kelly asked, "What's your plan after we go to Washington? Are you going to start painting again?" Diane was thoughtful for a moment. "No." Kelly was watching her. "Really?" "Well, there is a painting that I want to do. It's a picnic scene in Central Park." Her voice broke. "Two lovers having a picnic in the rain. Then, we'll see. What about you? Are you going back to modeling?" "No, I don't think Diane was looking at her. Well, maybe, because while I'm on the runway, I can imagine Mark watching me, and blowing kisses. Yes, I think he would want me to go back to work. Diane smiled. Good. They watched television for another hour, and then Diane said, I think it's time for bed. 15 minutes later, they were undressed and in their queen beds, both reliving their recent adventures. Kelly yawned. I'm sleepy, Diane. Let's turn out the lights. Afterward. The old adage that everyone talks about the weather but no one does anything about it is no longer valid. Today, two superpowers have the ability to control weather around the world, the United States and Russia. Other countries are working feverishly to catch up. The search for the mastery of the elements that began with Nikola Tesla in the late 1800s, involving the transmission of electrical energy through space, has become a reality. The consequences are monumental. Weather can be used as a blessing or as a doomsday weapon. All the necessary elements are in place. In 1969, the U.S. Patent Office granted a patent for a method of increasing the likelihood of precipitation by the artificial introduction of seawater vapor into the atmosphere. In 1971, a patent was issued to the Westinghouse Electric Corporation for a system for irradiation of planet surface areas. In 1971, a patent was issued to the National Science Foundation for a weather modification method. In the early 1970s, the U.S. Congressional Committee on Oceans and Internal Environment held hearings on our military research into weather and climate modification, and found that the Defense Department had plans for creating tidal waves through the coordinated use of nuclear weapons. The danger of a devastating confrontation between the United States and Russia became so great that in 1977 a UN treaty against weather modification for hostile purposes was signed by the United States and Russia. That treaty did not signify the end of weather experimentation. In 1978, the United States launched an experiment that created a downpour of rain over 6 counties in northern Wisconsin. The storm generated winds of 175 miles per hour and caused $50 million in damages. Russia, meanwhile, has been working on its own projects. In 1992, the Wall Street Journal reported that a Russian company, Elat Intelligence Technologies, was selling weather control equipment tailored to specific needs, using the slogan "Weather Made to Order." Their services are available to every country in the world. As the experiments in both countries continued, weather patterns began to change. As early as the 1980s, strange weather phenomena were being reported. A ridge of high pressure has hovered nearly 800 miles off the California coast for the past 2 months, blocking the usual flow of moist air from the Pacific. Time magazine, January 1981. The stagnant high-pressure season acted like a barrier, preventing the normal flow of weather patterns from west to east. New York Times, July 29, 1993. The weather catastrophes described in the body of this novel have all happened. Weather is the most powerful force we know. Whoever controls it can disrupt world economies with perpetual rainstorms or tornadoes, wipe out crops in a drought, cause earthquakes, hurricanes, and tsunamis, close world airports, and cause devastation on enemy battlefields. We could all sleep better if a world leader said, "Everyone talks about the weather, but no one does anything about it." And it was the truth.